My life. Used to spend my nights out in the bar room. Liquor was the only love I'd known. What's up, Wing Chun? How's it going? Asini. Hey. Nice of you to join. Raya. Black Feathers. Hey, Katie. How you doing? What's up, Bigfoot? Nice of you to join. Hey, Losh. How's it going? What's up, Hope? Lynn Homies? How about, what's up, Lynn Fam? What's up, Lynn Fam? Sounds so weird. Greek Yogurt. How's it going? Logan Webb. You're crazy sleepy? Listen, I just woke up from a nap, okay? And I still need to sleep. I don't know, guys. Naps don't make me feel any more refreshed. Yesterday was your birthday. Well, happy birthday, Malik. Did you get any gifts? Naps make you feel worse too? Yeah, I don't feel refreshed. What's up, Nikki? Nice of you to join. Chris Stapleton? That was Chris Stapleton. What a good song that was. I can listen to that all day. What's up, Claire? Doesn't it all depend on if you wake up in the middle of REM? I don't know. Like a good night's sleep, yeah, I'm refreshed in the morning. But whenever I take a nap in the evening or the afternoon or something, nope, doesn't refresh me. All right. So we finished that Baksu box, right? I opened a new one. So new box. Let's see how long this one lasts. Look at this. What is this? It's like some kind of cake. All right. It looks good though. Ooh. Oh, I know these. What are these called again? You guys know, right? There's a name for them. All right. Doraemon likes these, I believe. Hmm. Hmm. Oh, it's really sweet. Oh. Hmm. Hmm. Linformers? What is Linformers? Like Transformers? What is the filling? It tastes purple. It's pretty sweet. I don't know what it is though. You thought it was some kind of sweet cheeseburger? Oh. Ube? Maybe it's ube. Yeah, it's not red bean paste. All right, it's pretty good though. 7 out of 10. It's purple taste. All right, let's jump into it, okay? Let's see Wordle. All right. Let's see how we do today. Bloop, 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 bloop. Hold on. Taro. This is not Taro, though. All right. It's 6:08. Let's do this. Let's do this in 1 minute. Stomp. Ore. All right. Not a good start. Not a good start. Is it forge? Oh, that would be good, wouldn't it? Is it gorge? Is it grow? Nope. Orange. Oregon. Oregon. Orny. Orbit. Orbit. Orbin. Orbiv. Or is it? Okay. Row. Rock. Rocks. Rocks. Let's see. Okay, it's not rocks. XO. R. Born. Norn. Gorn. Jorn. Dorn? Dorn. Game of Thrones. Forn. Zorn. Warn. 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 Candy. I really want to do candy though. No. Rock? Lore. R. M. H. G. J. L. F. D. W. Q. What is it? Loom? No, there's no O here. Born. No R. Born. Jason Bourne. Born. Nope. Boxer. Boxing. Box. Borge. Boxing? What if it's something R? Boxer. But there's no E. Bor. Borg? Bor? Borf? Bowl? Oh no! Okay. Ah! Below me. What is this stupid word? Bull. Bonnet. Bonner. Bono. Donor. Donor. Oh my god. That was a wild guess. Oh, everyone got donor. Okay, fine. All right. That was pretty good. That was I think it was 4 minutes. Okay, not bad. Not too good. Oh, not too bad either. Do we want to do a Loodle? I don't know, guys. Sometimes this website, they don't, I'm not sure about the letters or the words that they give you. All right, it's a 5-letter word, so always start with the penis. What else? With an E. With an E. All right, I'm gonna need chat's help. Spent 10 minutes trying to get the D. Oh, boner. Oh, good job. Okay, you're right. There's a B. All right, guys. I can't do this myself. This is too hard. What can it be? Think of bad words. Think of inappropriate words. Class. What else? E. B and E, guys. XXBER. E. L. Nobel. I don't know if it starts with an F. Phoner? My mind is not dirty enough. Oh. Belly? But the E is on this side. Nipple. Is that no, that's 6 letters. Hair. Harry. Harry? It eliminates words or letters. Okay, no, not Harry. Get rid of consonants. Okay, B and E. What if it's EB? Leb. Jeb? Feb. B, guys. B. Insert. Oh. I keep thinking of 6-letter words. Lubes? Oh. Well, there's an S, though. But then we can try that. Guys, good job. Who did that? Luber. Lubed. Right? Lubed? Good job. Good job. Nice job, Jet. Okay, so one last game, okay? Europe Geography quiz. Okay. So the goal is for today 70%. All right, let's do 70%. I think we can do it. Hungary. is here. Okay. Good job. Estonia? No idea. Oh, okay. Hey, off to a good start. Okay, Albania. I think it's somewhere down here. Nope. 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 Oof, close. UK, we got that. Denmark. Sure. Italy, that's easy. Greece. Kosovo. Oof. Here. Here. Damn it. Ukraine. Poland. Ooh, I think this is Luxembourg, right? Okay, okay. North Macedonia. Ireland. Okay, Latvia, I think it's somewhere up here. It's got to be one of these. Okay. Cyprus is this. Portugal. Lithuania. Is it this? It must be. On a roll today. Andorra. Oof. Is it here? 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 So this is Andorra. San Marino. It's gonna be somewhere. Oh, I don't know. Don't know. Don't know. Oh, okay. Bulgaria. One of these. Montenegro. What the hell is that? Oh shit, that's Switzerland. Bosnia, okay. Czech should be here, right? Fuck. Spain. Malta. Malta? Malta, no, Malta. Austria is this. Moldova here. Netherlands. Slovakia should be one of these. Oh, it's Belarus. Oof. This is Serbia. Belarus. Iceland. France. Oh god, which one is Sweden? I always mix these up. Sweden. Croatia. Oh, no idea. Here. Here. Okay. Romania. Here? What is this? Liechtenstein is here. Finland. Oh, God. Finland. Switzerland. Russia. This is Belgium. This is the Vatican. Monaco. This must be Slovenia. Germany? Norway. 72! You guys. Hell yeah. Alright. Next week, 80%. Alright. I think last week we got like 60-something percent. Slovakia is right beside Czech because Czechoslovakia. True. Where the hell is Slovakia again? I totally forgot. One of these. All right. Next week, 80%. Did I get 50% last time? It wasn't like 60 something? I thought I had like 60 something percent last time, no? Anyway, 72 is pretty good. All right. We're going to get 80% next week, okay? And then 90% after that. Then 100% after that. We're going to learn all of the countries in the world. Okay, so what happened last time? Andorra is between France and Spain. Yeah, I think I remember that now. All right, what happened last time? All right, so last time, our hero Duan Yu and Wang Yuyan, they're at this peasant's house, and they're fighting these men from Western Xia. And Duan Yu is like super strong, and he kills all of them. But he tries to fight the final boss, and he loses. Okay, because like he doesn't have full control of his powers yet. So whenever he tries to fire a finger cannon, sometimes it doesn't work, right? So he fights the boss, and he loses. The boss knocks him down and puts a saber on his neck, right? But then suddenly the boss just leaves, and then he even leaves behind medicine for Wang Yuyan. So she takes the medicine and then cures that poison of the Western Xia men, right? So she's cured, and they're both surprised. They're like, "Why did this guy just leave? He had Duan Yu down, right? He could have just cut his neck and killed him." But we don't know. They talk. Wang Yuyan, she accidentally reveals that her cousin Mu Rongfu wants to restore the old state of Yan. Okay, so it was an old state. Now it's destroyed now. But the Murong family was the royal family of the Yan state. So his life's mission, his life's goal, is to restore the state of Yan. Yeah, so she accidentally reveals that. She's like, "Oh shit!" She tells him not to reveal that to anyone else. But Duan Yu, he doesn't really care, right? He doesn't really care about these big political issues. All right, so they decide to go to find Aju and Abi. Now, on the way, Duan Yu is like so in love, right? He keeps saying these corny things like, "Oh, I'll never be mad at you" and stuff like that. And Wang Yu, like she's like she's had enough, and she stops him, and she makes it clear that she has only feelings for her cousin Mu Rongfu, right? And that Duan Yu needs to stop. Which Duan Yu he does begrudgingly. And that's where we left off, I believe. How's that? All right. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Hmm. Let's try it this way. All right. Chapter 18. Vengeance of a foreign man suppresses the emptying of a hero's tears. What? Or the hero had to exhaust his tears because of the Hu Han gratitude and rancor. Okay, sure. Chapter 18. So Duan Yu and Wang Yuyan, they're traveling, okay? Two of them gently controlled the bridles and let the horses run slowly to Wuxia. After going for several li, they suddenly saw a corpse hanging on a roadside pine tree. Judging from the clothes, it was a Western Xia warrior. Going for several more zhangs, they saw two corpses of Western Xia warriors lying beside a hillside. The blood on the wounds had not yet been dry. They had died not long ago. Duan Yu said, "These Western Xia men had met opponents, Miss Wang. Who do you think killed them?" Wang Yuyan said, "This man's martial arts are extremely good, killing people just by raising his hands, and without the slightest effort. He's really terrific. Yi, who's there?" Definition of rancor? Ooh. Rancor is, I think it means rage. Like, really mad, I believe. Rancor. Yep. Uncontrollable anger. Wait 1 second. They saw on the wide road there were 2 horses coming side by side. One of the 2 people riding the horses was wearing a red gown, and the other was wearing a green gown. They were none other than Aju and Abi. Oh, they found them so fast. Guan Yu was very happy. He shouted, "Miss Aju, Miss Abi, you have escaped from dangers. Good, extremely good, wonderful." The 4 people rode their horses and gathered. They all felt very happy. Aju said, "Miss Wang, Mr. Duan, why do you return? I and Sister Abi were thinking of going to look for you." Guan Yu said, "We were also going to look for you." As he finished saying this, he cast a look at Wang Yuyan, thinking that if he could be grouped together with her in we, that would be really a great honor. Wang Yuyan said, "How did you escape? Have you sniffed that stinking bottle?" Aju smiled and said, "It's really extremely stinky, miss. You've also sniffed it? It's the medicine." Oh wait, did I look up rage? I'm sorry. I think I'm still sleepy. Rancor. Oh no! Why did I look up rage? That's so funny. I said rancor meant rage, and I looked up rage. Okay. Rancor means bitterness. Oh no, I was wrong. It does not mean rage. Alright, you got me. You got me. Yeah, I need coffee. Oh my god. Alright, you get 1 song at the end, okay? That's 1 karaoke song. I think I know which one I'm gonna sing. Rage and bitterness are pretty close. Yeah, it's pretty close, right? You can be angry and bitter at the same time. Were you sleeping before the stream? Yeah, I had a little nap before the stream. I think I'm still sleepy. Alright. Stinking bottle. Aju smiled and said, wait. Miss, you've also sniffed it? It was also Chief Chow who saved you?" Wang Yuyan said, "No, Mr. Duan saved me. You were saved by Chief Chow?" Hearing her personally say the sentence, "Mr. Duan saved me," Duan Yu felt buoyant, as if he was on cloud 9. After that, he felt giddy and almost fell down from horseback. Aju said, "Yes, after I and Abi were poisoned, we were in a daze and could not move. Together with the beggar clan's people, we were tied up by those Western Xia barbarians and put on horseback. After going for a while, it started to rain heavily, so they divided the task of finding a rain shelter among themselves, then dispersed. Several Western Xia warriors took me and Abi into a summer house over there to avoid the rain. Only when the heavy rain had stopped did they go out. At that time, in the back, there was someone coming on a horse. He was Chief Chow. Seeing 2 of us being tied up by Western Xia men, he was very surprised. When he hadn't asked any question, I and Abi already shouted, "Chief Chow, save us!" As soon as those Western Xia warriors heard the 2 words, "Chief Chow," they, one after another, drew their weapons to kill him. As a result, some were hung on a pine tree, some rolled down a hillside, and some fell into a brook. So Qiao Feng saved these 2. I gotta drink coffee before a nap to wake up energized. Isn't a nap supposed to energize you? Why should I need to drink coffee, huh? That doesn't seem fair or right. Aju said, "Yes, I said, Chief Chow." Wait, Wang Yuyan smiled and said, "That's what happened just now, right?" Aju said, "Yes, I said, Chief Chow, I and sister are poisoned. Sorry to trouble you, but could you search for the antidote on the Western Shia barbarians' bodies, please?" Chief Chow ferreted out a small porcelain bottle on the corpse of a Western Shia warrior. Whether it was sweet or stinky, there's no need to talk much about that. Wang Yuyan asked, "Where is Chief Chow?" Aju said, "Hearing that the Beggars Clan's people had all been poisoned and captured, he said he wanted to go save them and hurriedly left. He also asked about Mr. Duan, looking very concerned." Duan Yu sighed and said, "This sworn big brother of mine really has a deep and serious sense of personal loyalty." Aju said, "The Beggar Clan's people couldn't tell good and bad apart and drove away a good chief. Now they're suffering from their own actions. Serves them right. In my opinion, Chief Chow doesn't need to save them at all. Just let them taste some misfortunes. See if they'll still rashly expel people." Duan Yu said, My sword. My sword. I think that's a typo. Duan Yu said, "My sworn big brother is a faithful man. He'd rather have other people turn their backs on him, but he himself wouldn't agree to turn his back on them." Abi said, "Miss Wang, where are we going now?" Wang Yuyan said, "At first, I and Mr. Duan discussed that we had to go save you two. Now all the four of us are safe. This really can't be better. The Beggar Clan's affairs aren't related to us at all. In my opinion, let's go to Shaolin Monastery to look for your young master. Is that okay?" What the two pretty girls Aju and Abi cared for the most was also Mr. Murong. Hearing her say so, they clapped their hands and cheered at the same time. Duan Yu felt very grieved, but he calmly said, "This young master of yours, I really admire him very much, and must meet him by all means. Anyways, there's nothing to do, so I'll follow you. Anyways, there's nothing to do, so I'll follow you to Shaolin Monastery one time." Immediately, the four people turned their horses and went towards the north. Wang Yuyan and the two pretty girls, Aju and Abi, continuously smiled and talked about things like how dangerous it had been in the mill, how Duan Yu had dealt with the enemies, and how Li Yanzong, that's the boss, a west or yeah, that's the guy uh that had his saber on Duan Yu's neck and then he just left. And how Li Yanzong, a Western Xia warrior, had spared their lives and given them the antidote in detail. Aju and Abi were surprised ceaselessly. Whenever the three young girls talked to an interesting part, they chuckled and often turned their heads and looked at Duan Yu. They used their sleeves to cover up their mouths, but also did not dare to laugh freely. Duan Yu knew they were talking about his own foolish actions, but thinking that even though he had acted like a clown, in the end he had protected Wang Yuyan carefully. He could not help but feeling both ashamed and somewhat proud, seeing that the three young girls were very close to each other and were treating him as a complete outsider. He thought that at this moment it was already like this. Wait until they met Mr. Murong. He himself would naturally have no place to take shelter. Murong Fu would probably be like Babu Tong and would drive himself away without any courtesy. The more he thought, the more bored and apathetic he felt. Do I like your adult star name? Inke Hisui. I don't know what that means though. After going for several leagues and passing through a big wood of mulberry trees, they suddenly heard the sounds of two boys crying at the edge of the wood. The four people urged their horses forward, but saw that there were two 14 or 15-year-old little Buddhist novices. Their Buddhist robes were full of bloodstains. One of them was even injured in the forehead. Abi softly asked, "Little monks, who bullied you? Why are you injured?" The Buddhist novice who was not injured in the forehead cried and said, "There were lots and lots of foreign villains coming to the temple. They killed our master and chased the two of us away." When the four people heard the two words, foreign villains, they all looked at each other and thought, "Are they those Western Shia men?" Aju asked, "Where is your temple? Who are the foreign villains?" That little Buddhist novice said, "We're from Tianning Temple, over there." As he finished saying this, he pointed to the northeast and said again, "Those foreigners had captured more than 100 beggars and went into the temple to avoid the rain. They demanded wine and meat and also wanted to kill fowls and cattle. Our master said that it was a sin and did not let them kill the cattle in the temple. They then killed our master and more than 10 apprentice brothers in the temple." Boo-hoo. I don't think anyone cries like that, right? "And more than 10 apprentice brothers in the temple." Aju asked, "Have they gone?" The little Buddhist novice pointed to the wisp of kitchen smoke that was rising and waving in the wind behind the mulberry wood and said, "They're cooking cattle meat. What a sin. Bodhisattva, bless. Please throw these foreigners into the Avicii hell." If you watch my hell, Buddhist hell video, Avicii hell is the lowest level of hell. Aju said, "You should quickly run away, a little far away from here. If you two get caught by those foreigners, they'll butcher and eat you." Frightened, the two little Buddhist novices staggered away. What's the youngest age a Buddhist novice could be? Oh, super young, I believe. They can be like, sometimes people leave babies at the doorstep of a temple. So yeah, they can be super young. They went into a Buddhist temple demanding meat. Maybe they went into a temple and then they brought meat and wine with them. Perhaps. Guan Yu disapproved of that and said, "The two of them already have no way out. Sister Aju, why did you need to threaten them?" Aju smiled and said, "This wasn't threatening. What I said was the truth." Abi said, "The Beggar Society's people have already been kept prisoners in that Tianning temple, but Chief Qiao had pursued in the direction of Wuxia City. He certainly rushed for nothing." Oh, Qiao Feng went in the wrong direction. Uh-oh. Aju suddenly had an odd idea and said, "Miss Wang, I want to disguise myself as Chief Qiao and sneak in the temple, then throw that stinky bottle for the beggars to sniff. After they've escaped from danger, they'll surely feel very grateful to Chief Qiao." Oh, I'm not sure this is gonna end well. Why don't you run after Xiao Feng and warn him instead? Wang Yuyan smiled and said, "Chief Qiao is big in stature and is a tall, muscular man. How can you disguise yourself as him?" Aju smiled and said, "The harder it gets, the more obvious Aju's skills are." Wang Yuyan smiled and said, "You can make yourself look like Chief Qiao, but you can't imitate his unmatched extraordinary skills. They're full of Western Xia's first-class halls' experts in Tianning Temple. How can you come and go freely? In my opinion, disguising yourself as a cook or as an old peasant woman who sells vegetables would make it a bit easier to sneak in." Aju said, "You want me to disguise as an old peasant woman? There's nothing interesting about that. I'm not going." Wang Yuyan looked at Duan Yu, wanting to say something, but not being able to say it. Duan Yu asked, "Miss, what do you want to say?" Wang Yuyan said, I just wanted to ask you to disguise as a person and go with Aju to Tianning Temple, but after considering it, I find it inappropriate. Duan Yu said, Who do you want me to disguise as? Wang Yuyan said, The brave men of the Beggars clan have a very suspicious mind. They've wrongly accused my cousin and Chief Chow of colluding with each other and killing their Vice Chief Ma. If my cousin and Chief Chow freed them from these difficult situations, then they wouldn't blindly suspect anymore. Duan Yu felt very sad and said, You want me to disguise as your cousin? The white face of Wang Yuyan reddened. She said, The enemies in Tianning Temple are very strong, so it'll be very dangerous for you to go like this. Not going is still better. Duan Yu thought, I'll do whatever you want me to. Even if my body is ground to dust, I won't hesitate. Suddenly he also thought, When I've disguised as her cousin, maybe her manner towards me will be a bit different. It'll also be good to conveniently enjoy her tenderness in a short while. Thinking to hear, he could not help feeling very excited and said, What's so dangerous about it? Running away is exactly my specialty. Wang Yuyan said, I already said it was inappropriate. My cousin kills the enemies as easily as turning his hand over and has never run away. As soon as Duan Yu heard that, he felt a stream of cold air running straight down from the top of his head. He thought, Your cousin is a great hero and a great person of exceptional abilities. I'm just not suitable to disguise as him. If I imitate him and make a fool of myself in front of other people, that'll certainly desecrate his reputation. Seeing that he was in low spirits, Abi said to console him, The enemies outnumber us, so it's urgent that we temporarily step aside. We only want to save people, not to become well known by competing in martial arts. Aju's pair of clever eyes looked at Duan Yu from the head to the feet to size him up. After a while, she nodded and said, Mr. Duan, it's really quite hard for you to disguise as our young master. Luckily, the Beggar Clan's people have never known our young master, so we only need a person that generally looks and sounds like him. Duan Yu said, Your skills are great. It's suitable for you to disguise as Chief Chow. Otherwise, because Chief Chow was the man that the Beggar Clan's people met daily, if there's a little bit of a flaw, our true identities will immediately be exposed. Aju smiled and said, Chief Chow is a stately man, but it's easy for me to disguise as him. Our young master is almost the same as you in stature. His age is also not much older than yours. Both of you are young masters of influential families and like to study. But if we want you to give up your true appearance and change into a Mr. Murong, that would be really very hard. Duan Yu sighed and said, Mr. Murong is a phoenix or dragon among people. How can other people imitate him perfectly? He's putting himself down way too much. I think it'll still be better if I disguise. I don't look very similar. If in disguise, I don't look very similar to him. Otherwise, when I run away, wouldn't that damage Mr. Murong's distinct and good reputation? Wang Yuyan blushed and said in a low voice, Mr. Duan, I made a slip of the tongue. Are you still angry with me? Duan Yu hastily said, No. How do I dare to be angry with you? Wang Yuyan gave a charming smile and said, Sister Aju, where are you two going to disguise? Aju said, To be able to buy the things for application, we gotta go to a small town. The four people turned their horses and went westward. After going for 7 or 8 lees, they arrived in a small town called Ma Lang Chiao. That town was very small and did not have any inn. Aju came up with an idea. She hired a boat and anchored it in the middle of a river. After that, she went to buy clothes and necessary things and disguised on the boat. In Jiangnan, there were small rivers everywhere, and there were a lot of boats, no less than the livestock of the north. All right, Michelle. See ya. Work hard. She helped Duan Yu change clothes and made up for him first, letting him hold a folding fan in his right hand, wear a blue robe, and wear a ring on his right finger. Aju said, "Our young master wears a Han Dynasty jade ring, but where to buy it here? Use Qingtian stone to imitate is also okay." Duan Yu could only force a smile and thought, "Mu Rongfu is a precious jade item. I'm a lowly stone. In the viewpoints of these three young girls, the respective positions of the two of us are also like that." Aju spread flour on his face, made his nose look higher, and made his cheeks look rather fuller. Then she took a pen and altered his eyebrows and the edge of his eyes. After disguising Duan Yu, she smiled to Wang Yuyan. "Miss Wang, do you think there's still any dissimilarity?" So remember, Aju is a master disguiser, right? That's we knew that when we first saw her, when she was disguised as like servants of the house. Wang Yuyan did not answer and only looked at him in a trance. Her eyes were filled with affectionate feelings. Obviously, she was smitten and her mind was wandering high in the air. Oh, so it looks like his disguise is really good. As soon as he saw this infatuated look of hers, Duan Yu could not help feeling as if he was floating, but he immediately thought, "She's looking at Mu Rongfu and not looking at Duan Yu at all." He also thought, "I wonder how handsome that Mu Rongfu guy is. How can he be 100 times better looking than me? It's a pity I can't see myself." For a while he felt happy, then for another while he felt sad. The two people looked at each other, thoughts surging in their respective minds. They did not know that Aju and Abi had already gone to the back of the cabin to disguise themselves. After a good while, they suddenly heard the husky voice of a man. "Ah, so you're here. It was so painful for your big brother to find you." Frightened, Duan Yu raised his head and saw the person who had just said was Chao Feng. He could not help feeling very happy and said, "Big brother, it's you. This is very good. We're about to disguise as you to go save people. Now you've personally come here. Sister Aju doesn't need to disguise anymore." Xiao Feng said, "The Beggars Clan's people have expelled me from the society. Whether they're dead or alive, I don't care. Good brother, come here, come here. Let's disembark and go for a drink. We'll drink 20 bowls of wine." Duan Yu hastily said, "Big brother, the Beggar Clan's brave men are all your former good brothers. Can you please still go save them?" Xiao Fang angrily said, "What does a bookworm like you know? Come here, go for a drink with me." As he finished saying this, he grabbed Duan Yu's hand. Duan Yu had no choice but to say, "Okay, I'll go for a drink with you first. After drinking wine, we'll save people." Xiao Feng suddenly giggled in a lovely manner. His laughs sounded clear and graceful. It was really surprising that a big and tall man could be uttering this kind of girlish laugh. Duan Yu was startled, but he immediately understood, smiled, and said, "Sister Aju, your disguising skills are really extremely fantastic. Even the voice and words are imitated so well like this." Do they know who Duan Yu is? Yeah, they do. They know he's a... Wait, do they? Oh, I don't think they know. Yeah, they don't know that Duan Yu is a prince in Dali, or the son of a prince. Yeah, they don't know. Aju changed to Qiao Feng's voice and said, "Good brother, let's go. Make sure you bring that stinking bottle." She turned towards Wang Yuyan and Abi and said, "The two ladies had better wait here." As she finished saying this, she held Duan Yu's hand and strode on shore. No one knew what she had applied to her hand. It was a delicate, small white hand, yet when held out, it unexpectedly looked swarthy. Even though it was smaller than Qiao Feng's hand, in short periods of time it was still hard for other people to distinguish. Wang Yuyan looked at the back of Duan Yu. She only thought, if he really was My cousin, that'd be so good. Cousin, at this moment, are you also thinking about me? Aju and Donyu rode their horses towards Tianning Temple. When they were about 5 leagues away from the temple, fearing that the Western Xia warriors in the temple could hear the hoofbeats, they tied the horses in the cattle stall of a farmhouse and went forwards on foot. Aju said, Brother Murong, after arriving at the temple, I'll talk big, brag, and terrify them. You'll seize the opportunity to remove the poison in the beggar clan's people with the stinking bottle. She said these few sentences in a deep, gruff voice, just like the way Qiao Feng spoke. Duan Yu smiled and replied. The two people strode to the outside of Tianning Temple. I don't know, guys. I don't know if this is going to turn out well. They only saw more than 10 Western Xia warriors standing at the gate of the temple, holding long sabers in their hands and looking very fierce. When Aju and Duan Yu saw that, they got nervous and could not help feeling terrified. Aju said in a low voice, Mr. Duan, after a while you must pull me and run away at high speed. Otherwise, if they want to... Wait, this is Aju. Mr. Duan, after a while you must pull me and run away at high speed. Otherwise, if they want to find and challenge me in martial arts, that can be hard to handle. Duan Yu said, okay. But he said this word in a trembling voice. In fact, he also felt extremely scared. While the two people were discussing in a low voice and sticking their heads out and looking around, a Western Xia warrior at the gate already saw them and shouted loudly, Two bastards standing over there! It's not nice to be sneaky. Are you spies? As he was shouting, 4 other warriors rushed out. Aju had no alternative but to hold forth her chest and stride forwards. She said in a rough voice, Quickly, inform your general that Qiao Feng of the Beggars Clan and Mu Rongfu of Jiangnan come to pay General Hu Lian of Western Xia a visit. The head warrior was astonished when he heard that. He hastily cupped his fist in his hand, bowed, and said, So, it's Chief Qiao of the Beggars Clan visiting. Please pardon us for being disrespectful. I will report right away. He immediately turned around and quickly stepped inside the temple. The rest respectfully dangled their hands and stood to the sides. Before long, sounds of bugles were heard. The gate of blank. The gate was opened wide. The hall master of First Class Hall of Western Xia, Hulian Tiashu, led the experts like Nu Erhai out to welcome. Yu Erniang, South Sea Divine Alligator, and Yun Zhonghe were also among them. Duan Yu lowered his head and did not dare to look directly at them, his heart pounding. Oh yeah, these people know his face, right? So it would be pretty bad if they saw him. If they saw through his disguise. Hulian Tishu said, I have long admired the great reputation of Murong of Gusu with the paying him back using his own methods technique. Today, being able to meet the worthy, I felt honored, really honored. As he finished saying this, he cupped his fist in his hand to Duan Yu in salute. Because First Class Hall of Western Xia and the Beggars Clan had become the enemies of each other, he thought there was no need to act polite towards Qiao Feng. Duan Yu hastily returned the salute and said, General Hu Lian's reputation has reached the edges of the seas, so I have long been looking forward to meeting the heroes and great men of First Class Hall. Today our arrival is very sudden. Hopefully you'll be magnanimous enough to forgive this. He was already very good at saying these fanciful, polite words. Therefore they sounded grandiose and did not have any flaw. Hulian Tiashu said, I've often heard people in Wulin say, North Qiao Feng, South Murong, and when talking about the heroes of the Central Plains, they choose the two of you as the leading figures. Today, the two of you visit here at the same time. How fortunate. Please, Please. He then bent his body and invited the two people to enter the main hall of the temple. Aju and Duan Yu put on a bold face and went side by side with Hulian Tia Shu. Duan Yu thought, judging from the words and manner of this Western Xia general, it seems he respects Mr. Murong more than he respects my big brother, Qiao. Could it be that this Murong Fu guy's martial arts and personality are one level above Big Brother? As I see, this is improbable. Suddenly, there was a strange voice. Improbable. Startled, Duan Yu turned his head and looked at that person. It was South Sea Divine Alligator. He was squinting at Duan Yu at a slant, with a pair of eyes which were as small as beans, and only shook his head. Duan Yu's heart palpitated. He thought, terrible. Perhaps I was recognized by him. He heard South Sea Divine Alligator. Divine Croc. He heard the Divine Croc say, looks like you have less than 3 tails of bones. What the heck are you capable of? Hey, I ask you. They say you can pay him back using his own methods. I, Yue Lauer, certainly don't believe so. Yue Lauer means Yue the second. Duan Yu immediately felt relieved. So he doesn't recognize me at all. He heard South Sea Divine Croc say again, I don't need you to show your skills either. I only ask you, do you know what Yue Lauer's special skills are? What fucking skills you'd use to deal with me to be regarded as fucking paying your father back using your own father's methods? Saying to here, he stood with arms akimbo, looking arrogant. Hulian Tiashu at first had wanted to stop him, but he changed his mind. Murong Fu had a great reputation, but whether the name matched the reality, there was no harm in checking it out through this crazy South Sea Divine Croc. Therefore, at that moment, he did not interrupt at all. While talking, they had already entered the main hall. Hulian Tiashu invited Duan Yu to sit at the top, but Duan Yu gave the top position up to Aju. South Sea Divine Croc said loudly, Hey, Mr. Murong, you say, what's my best skill? Duan Yu smiled and thought, if other people asked me, I really wouldn't be able to answer, but if you asked me, that's a lucky coincidence. Akimbo definition? I think arms out. He's still with arms out. Like, yeah, what's up? What's up? Like that. I believe that's akimbo. With hands on the hips and elbows turned outward. Oh. Oh, wait. Of other limbs flung out widely or haphazardly. Legs akimbo. Oh. Do I get credit for this? So if it refers to the arms, then it's like, it's with your hands on the hips and elbows turned outward. But if it refers to your legs, then it's akimbo, like flung out widely. I might have mixed those two up. Is that another song? Oh, do I get credit for that? That's a song? Fuck. Okay, now we know. Akimbo means hands on the hips. Fuck. Good job, Claire. Okay, so luckily Duan Yu knows the Divine Croc's best skill because he's seen it. He instantly opened his folding fan, flapped it gently several times, and said, South Sea Divine Croc, Yue Lao San. Originally, your best skill was twisting off other people's necks in a clack sound. In recent years, your skills have improved. At the moment, the martial arts that you're most pleased with are the alligator tail whip and the alligator-mouthed scissors. To deal with you, naturally, I'll use the alligator-tailed whip and the alligator-mouthed scissors. He mentioned the names of the alligator-tailed whip and the alligator-mouthed scissors in one go. Certainly, South Sea Divine Croc was so surprised that his jaw dropped. Even Yu Erniang and Yun Zhonghe were also extremely surprised. South Sea Divine Croc had just practiced these two weapons recently and had never put them to use in front of other people. He had only used them once when fighting Yun Zhonghe atop Mount Wuliang in Dali. At that time, no one besides Mu Wanqing had seen the weapons, but they could never have thought Mu Wanqing had already told this fake Mr. Mu Rong of the present about that from beginning to end. South Sea Divine Croc tilted his head and looked carefully at Duan Yu. Even though he was ferocious and ruthless, he admired heroes and brave men. After a while, he gave a thumbs up and said, "Good skill." Duan Yu laughed and said, "That's a laugh." South Sea Divine Croc thought, "He could mention even the weapons I've mastered recently. There's no need to ask him about my remaining martial arts. Too bad Big Brother is not here. Otherwise, he'd put him to the test. Ah, I got it." He said loudly, "Mr. Mu Rong, you can use my martial arts. There's nothing strange and rare about that. But if my master comes here, you sure won't know his martial arts." Duan Yu smiled and said, "Who is your master? What extraordinary skills does he have?" South Sea Divine Croc laughed and said boastfully, "Ha ha 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 ha! Needless to say, the master who first taught me martial arts passed away a long time ago. But the skills of my newly recognized master are no small matter. Let's not talk about the other things, just the wave-treading exquisite steps alone. I believe no second person in the world knows." Ah, his master is Duan Yu, remember? What a coincidence. Duan Yu muttered, "The wave-treading exquisite steps. That's truly an amazing technique. Who would have expected Mr. Duan of Dali to accept you as his disciple? But I somewhat don't believe this." South Sea Divine Croc hastily said, "Why do I need to fool you? A lot of people here personally heard Mr. Duan call me disciple." Duan Yu laughed up his sleeve. "At first, you'd rather die than agree to call me master, but now you fear that I don't recognize you as a disciple." He then said, "If so, you most probably have already acquired your master's unique skill. Congrats, congrats." South Sea Divine Croc shook his head continuously and said, I haven't. You claim that you know every martial arts technique in the world. If you can walk 3 steps of the wave-treading exquisite steps, you Lauer will be convinced." Duan Yu smiled and said, "Though the wave-treading exquisite steps is hard, I've also learned several steps. Master Yue, come here and try to catch me." As he finished saying this, his robe fluttered. He went to and stood in the middle of the main hall. The Western Xia people had never heard of the wave-treading exquisite steps technique. Hearing South Sea Divine Croc say that it was extremely mysterious and fantastic like this, they all hoped to increase their knowledge. They immediately split up and stood in the 4 corners of the main hall to see how Duan Yu would perform. South Sea Divine Croc let out a fierce roar and reached out his left hand. His right hand passed below his left palm to grab Duan Yu. Duan Yu took 2 steps obliquely, then backed off by half a step. His body was like the wind stirring lotus leaves, gently dodging it. A pooh sound was heard. South Sea Divine Croc had been too late to withdraw his force, and his 5 right fingers had stuck into a column in the main hall by several tsuns. Seeing that his internal energy was this good, all the bystanders went pale. Because the first attack had missed, South Sea Divine Croc roared more fiercely and jumped up when struck down from the air. Duan Yu did not pay any attention to that and only concerned himself with the 8 diagrams-based footwork that he was using to walk freely and comfortably. South Sea Divine Croc sped up his attacks and roared more and more loudly, looking totally like a ferocious beast. When Duan Yu caught a glimpse of that ferocious face, his heart skipped a beat. He hastily turned his head away, took out from his sleeve a towel, blindfolded himself, and said, "Even if I'm blindfolded, you still won't be able to catch me." Oh, he's really proud, huh? He's really arrogant now. South Sea Divine Croc's palms danced in the air and fiercely attacked Duan Yu, but they always missed his body by small distances. The bystanders all felt scared for Duan Yu, their palms excreting cold sweats. Ju cared about Duan Yu, therefore she was filled with even more apprehension. Suddenly she shouted loudly in a rough voice, "South Sea Divine Croc, how is Mr. Murong's wave-treading exquisite steps compared to your master's?" South Sea Divine Croc was startled. All the energy in his chest was instantly discharged. He stopped moving and said, "Excellent! Excellent! You can walk this strange footwork while having your eyes encased. I'm afraid even my master couldn't do so. Okay, Murong of Gusu deserves his reputation. I, South Sea Divine Croc, have respect for you." Duan Yu pulled off the towel on his eyes and returned to his seat. Immediately, there was a round of thunderous applause in the main hall. Waiting until the two people had settled into their seats, Hulian Tieshu raised his teacup and said, "Please have some tea. As the two heroes are visiting us, I'm wondering what you have to instruct us." Aju said, "Some brothers of my clan somehow offended the general. I heard that general sent experts to use high-level martial arts to capture and take them here. May I be so bold as to request that the general release them?" She especially stressed the words "sent experts to use high-level martial arts to capture and take them here to ridicule the Western Xia people for using the despicable method of poisoning to capture people." Hulian Tieshu smiled and said, "That's not wrong. Just now, Mr. Murong displayed his abilities. Sure enough, he deserves his reputation. Chief Qiao and Mr. Murong are equally famous, so you too need to show off your skills to everyone and make us Western Xia people sincerely admire you. Only then will we release every brave man of your clan." Uh-oh. Aju was very worried and thought, if I imitate Chief Qiao's skills, wouldn't this immediately be exposed? While trying to find a pretext to decline, suddenly she felt achy and weak in her limbs, which was the same as when she had been poisoned with the poisonous gas in the evening of the previous day. She could not help feeling very frightened. How terrible! Who would have expected these Western Xia villains to use the old trick again, even at this moment? What should I do? Uh-oh. Duan Yu was immune to harmful substances, therefore he did not feel anything. Seeing that Aju was weak and being paralyzed on her chair, he knew that she was being affected by the poisonous gas again. He hastily took out from his bosom that stinky bottle, removed its stopper, and placed it at the tip of her nose. Aju took some deep sniffs. Because she was not seriously poisoned, the numbness in her limbs quickly disappeared. She stretched out her hand to hold the bottle and kept sniffing non-stop. She found it strange as to why the enemies had not yet started to interfere. When looking at those Western Xia warriors, she only saw that every one of them was weak and being paralyzed on their chair. They were not budging at all and were only moving their eyeballs around chaotically. Wait, so the Western Xia men, they were also poisoned. What's going on? Duan Yu said, "How strange. These people get caught in their own trap. Could it be that they poisoned when... Wait. Could it be that they poisoned then... Wait. Could it be that they poisoned, then were poisoned by themselves?" Aju went to Hulian Tieshu and pushed him. The body of the general was immediately bent, and he sat on the chair in a sloping posture. He was really poisoned. but he could still talk. Therefore, he shouted, "Hey, who used the sad, weak, clear wind without permission? Quickly, take the antidote here. Quickly, take the antidote here." Oh, even the general is poisoned. Okay. What's going on? He shouted several times, but because all of his subordinates were weak, they only said, "Sir, subordinate can't move." Nu Erhai said, "There must be an infiltrator. If not, how can they know the complicated method of this sad, weak, clear wind?" Hulian Tiashu angrily said, "Correct. Who? You quickly investigate to clear this up, then smash him into 10,000 pieces for me." Nu Erhai said, "Yes, sir, but in this current situation, we must get the antidote first." Hulian Tiashu said, "That's right. You go and take the antidote here." Nu Erhai wrinkled his eyebrows, looked askance at the porcelain bottle in Aju's hand, and said, "Chief Chow, sorry to bother you, but could you please let us sniff the antidote in this bottle? Our general will definitely reward you generously." Aju laughed and said, "Who comes here to get your general's generous rewards? Wait, what? I want to urgently go rescue our society's brothers." Nu Erhai said again, "Mr. Murong, there's also a vial on my body. Could you please take it out, remove the stopper, and let me sniff it a bit?" Damn it. Definition of askance, eh? I think it means that you're looking... You're looking sideways with your eyes. Like you're not looking directly at it. You're looking like sideways with your eyes. Askance. Yeah, because he can't move his head, right? So he's looking askance, sideways at the porcelain bottle. Oh, fuck. Suspiciously? Oh, no! Not a good day for me, guys. Not a good day. All right, that's 3 songs. So it means suspiciously. I thought askance. Are you sure? All right, I'm gonna recheck. No. Side glance. No, that was right. I am correct, guys. I am correct. Side glance. There's another definition that freaking Google did not show. Thank God for Merriam-Webster. Ooh, a vial in my body. Duan Yu reached into his bosom and fished out a vial. It really was the antidote. He laughed and said, "I've taken out the antidote, but I won't let you sniff it." Then he went alongside... Nice. What a troll. Then he went alongside Aju to the back hall. When they pushed open the door of the west room, they saw that it was crammed with people, all of whom were the beggar clan's members who had been captured. Jake Shuri, thanks for the super chat. Neither here nor there, but it's always correct. I don't understand the reference. But thank you so much. As soon as Aju went in, Elder Wu called out, "Chief Chow, it's you! Thank the heavens!" Aju took the antidote for him to sniff and said, "This is the antidote. You go remove the poison in the bodies of all the brothers one by one." Elder Wu was very happy. He waited until his limbs could move to detoxify Elder Song. Duan Yu then used the antidote of Nu Erhai to detoxify Elder Shu. Aju said, the Beggars Clan has a lot of people. If detoxifying one by one like this, when will it finish? Elder Wu, you go search the bodies of those Western Xia people to see if they still have the antidote. Elder Wu said yes, then trotted towards the main hall. Swear words, yells, and pops of beating suddenly could be heard from the main hall. Obviously, on the one hand, Elder Wu was searching for the antidote, and on the other hand, he was beating them to vent his anger. He's just beating these paralyzed guys. Before long, he returned, carrying 6 small porcelain bottles with both hands, smiled, and said, I focus on searching the barbarians with flashy, expensive clothes. As expected, the ones with nice clothes had the antidote on their bodies. Those dudes have been miserable. Duan Yu laughed and said, Why? Elder Wu laughed and said, I gave each of them 2 slaps in the mouth. With those who had the antidote, I especially used some more force. What's up, Jude? How's it going? Suddenly he remembered that he had never seen Duan Yu. Therefore he asked, Brother, what, may I ask, is your name? I thank you very much for helping us. Duan Yu said, My compound surname is Mu Rong. I came to help too late, putting everyone to great inconvenience for a short while. This is my fault. Hearing that this man in front of them is the famous Mu Rong of Gusu, the beggar clans' people all were extremely astonished. Elder Song said, We've been blinded and wrongly accused Mr. Mu Rong of killing Vice Chief Ma. Today, if he and Chief Chiao hadn't saved us, everybody would have fallen into the hands of these Western Xia bastards. If that happened, would we still be able to have a good end? Elder Wu also said, Chief Chiao, a senior doesn't mind a junior's faults. It'll be better if you return to be our chief. Oh. Chang Guanqing said coldly, Master Chiao and Mr. Mu Rong really are intimate friends. Remember, Chang Guanqing was the leader of the rebellion, or of the coup. Calling Qiao Feng as Master Qiao instead of Chief Qiao, certainly he no longer recognized him as the chief. Moreover, he had said that he and Mr. Mu Rong really were intimate friends, which was a very dangerous sentence. The beggar clans' people had been suspecting Qiao Feng of making use of Mu Rongfu to eliminate Ma Da Yuan, but Qiao Feng had always denied that he and Mu Rongfu knew each other. Today, the two of them had gone to Tianning Temple together. They had also spoken to and laughed with each other, looking fairly close. Obviously, this was not the first time they had met. Can I do a video about the Hell Wheel woman yokai? I'll look into it. Maybe that sounds interesting. Aju thought that these people were all old acquaintances of Qiao Feng. Even if she dragged this situation out a little longer, they would surely recognize her flaws. Therefore, she said, It won't be late to slowly discuss the important affairs of the clan. I go see those Western Xia bastards. As she finished saying this, she walked towards the main hall. Soon afterwards, Duan Yu followed her. When the two people had arrived at the main hall, they heard Hulian Tiashu shouting abuse. Quickly, find out the name of this Western Xia bastard. After returning, search and confiscate his house. Kill all the males and females, old people and young people in his family, not sparing even a single fowl or dog. Fuck him. He's a Western Xia man. Why did he help strangers by stealing my sad, weak, clear wind and spreading it carelessly? Duan Yu was surprised and thought, who is the Western Xia man he was cursing? He noticed that after Hulian Tiashu let out a cursing sentence, Nu Erhai would reply with the sentence. Hulian said again, He wrote these 8 characters on the wall. Isn't it obvious that he wants to ridicule us? Duan Yu and Aju raised their heads and saw 4 rows of words which looked like flying dragons and dancing snakes written on the whitewashed wall. Paying him back using his own methods, narcotic, poisonous wind, I fully return to you. The ink strokes were still dripping wet. Obviously, the writer of these words had left not long ago. So someone wrote this, right? So someone released the poison. And these guys are saying it's a Western Shia man. Duan Yu uttered an ah sound and said, This, was it Mr. Murong who wrote this? Aju said in a low voice, Don't forget you're Mr. Murong. Our young master can write different styles of calligraphy. I can't recognize if these words were written by him. Duan Yu turned towards Nu Erhai and asked, who wrote this? Nu Erhai did not answer and secretly felt anxious, not knowing how the Beggar Clans' people would handle them. After returning the Beggar Clans' people, they themselves had done just about everything, including beating and insulting. Therefore, they only needed to pay him back using his own methods. That would already be very hard to bear. Seeing that the Beggar Clans' people were coming to the main hall in succession, Aju said in a low voice, The important business has been done. Let's go. She then said loudly, I have another important business and I must go handle it with Mr. Murong. See you later. Bye. As she finished saying this, she trotted out of the hall. The people like Elder Wu screamed out, Chief, please wait, Chief, please wait. Aju did not dare to stay there anymore. She and Duan Yu went faster and faster. The Beggar Clans' people had always revered Qiao Feng, therefore no one dared to go forwards to stop him. After the 2 people had gone for about a li, Aju laughed and said, Mr. Duan, it was really a lucky coincidence that hideous disciple of yours by chance wanted you to perform the wave-treading exquisite steps technique. He also said that you were even better than his master. Duan Yu let out a sound. Aju continued, I wonder who released the narcotic drug. That Western Xia general kept saying that there was an infiltrator. I think it was probably Western Xia men themselves who did that. Duan Yu suddenly recalled a person and said, Could it be Li Yanzong, the Western Xia warrior we met in the mill? Aju had never seen Li Yanzong, therefore she was unable to reply. She only said, Let's go and talk to Miss Wang. Ask her to consider it in detail. While they were going, they heard hoofbeats. On the main road, a person was galloping towards them. From afar, Duan Yu saw that it was none other than Qiao Feng. Oh crap. He happily said, He's big brother Qiao. When he was about to call out, Aju hastily pulled his sleeve and said, Don't shout. The real person has arrived. Then turned her body away. Duan Yu immediately understood. Aju is disguising as big brother Qiao. It wouldn't be very nice if she's seen by him. Before long, Qiao Feng had already come close. Duan Yu did not dare to face him directly and thought, when big brother Qiao meets the brave men of the Beggar clan, what's going to happen? The truth will immediately come out. I wonder if he will blame Aju for playing a trick like this or not. After saving Aju and Abi, Qiao Feng had known that the Beggar Clans' brothers had been captured by Western Xia men. Feeling very anxious, he had been searching for them all over the place. But unlike in the north, where there were only roads, in Jiangnan there were paddy fields and mulberry groves everywhere, and waterways and land routes also intersected each other. Qiao Feng had searched for a very long time, and with great difficulty he had run into the 2 little Buddhist novices of Tianning Temple. He had asked them clearly about the direction. Only then had he rushed for Tianning Temple. When he saw the vigorous expressions and the handsome appearance of Duan Yu, he thought, This young nobleman and my brother Duan Yu look equally bright. As Aju had already turned her body away, he did not pay any attention to her. Worrying about the Beggar Clans' brothers, he spurred the horse on to full speed and swept past them. Okay, so he ignored them. No, what's going to happen when he reaches the temple? All right. Give me a break. It'll be a 5-minute break. I'll be right back. And we're back. All right. So Duan Yu and Aju had just saved the Beggars Clan people. Okay. In disguise. Aju was disguised as Xiao Feng, but now the real Xiao Feng has come. So we'll see what happens. When he arrived at Tianning Temple, he saw more than 10 disciples of the Beggars Clan binding the Western Xia warriors and leading them out from the inside of the temple. Xiao Feng was very happy and thought, so, the Beggar Clan's brothers have turned the losing situation around and won instead. Seeing that Xiao Feng had gone, then returned, the beggars one after another moved forwards to welcome him and said, Chief, how to deal with these barbarians? Please give us instructions. Xiao Feng said, I'm already no longer a member of the Beggars Clan. Don't mention the word chief again. Was anyone injured? After the people like Elder Shu were informed, they all quickly ran out to welcome him. When they saw Xiao Feng, their faces either had an ashamed expression or lit up with happiness. Elder Song said loudly, Chief, yesterday in the apricot forest, our clan's spy in the western Xia sent back an urgent piece of military information. Elder Shu himself decided not to let you see it. Do you know what it was? Elder Shu, quickly, take it out for Chief to see. His words sounded rather rude. With an ashamed look on his face, Elder Shu took out a small paper ball that originally had been concealed in a wax ball and sighed. I was wrong. Then he held it out to Xiao Feng. Is Mu Rongfu going to show up next? That'll be funny. Xiao Feng shook his head and did not receive it. Elder Song forced his way forwards, grabbed and opened that thin, crinkled paper, then read loudly. Report to Chief. Subordinate has found out that General Hu Lian Tieshu of Western Xia had led the experts of first-class Hall to the Central Plains to deal with our clan. They have a dangerous type of poisonous gas. When released, it is totally odorless and makes people involuntarily unable to move. When we meet them, make sure we plug up our nostrils first, or defeat their leader first to snatch the awfully stinking antidote. Otherwise, it'll be extremely unsafe. Urgent, urgent. Subordinate Yi Da Biao of the Great Faith Branch urgently reports. Oh, whoops. Report came too late. Please do a video on Owl Niobo. Okay. I'll look him up. And we shall see. As Elder Song finished reading, he and such people as Elder Wu and Elder Xi glowered at Elder Shu simultaneously. Bai Xijing said, This urgent report by Brother Yi Da Biao arrived in time. Too bad we didn't open and read it in time. Fortunately, all brothers only suffered a terror, and no one was injured. Chief, we all apologize. Alas, really, needless to say, you are very noble and righteous. Elder Wu said, Chief, when you just left, everyone was instantly caught in this situation. If you and Mr. Mu Rong had... that was going to happen. If you and Mr. Mu Rong hadn't come and rescued us in time, the whole Beggars Clan would have been wiped out. If you don't return to take charge of important matters and be our chief, that won't work. Xiao Feng said in surprise, What, Mr. Mu Rong? Elder Wu said, People like Chang Guanqing talk nonsense. Please, don't listen to him. What's wrong with making friends? I believe that you and Mr. Mu Rong have only known each other since today. Xiao Feng said, Mr. Mu Rong? Do you mean Mu Rongfu? I've never seen him. Elder Shu and the four elders Song, Si, Chen, and Wu looked blankly at each other. All of them were nonplussed and thought, just a moment ago, you and Mr. Mu Rong, hand in hand, came in and detoxified everyone. Why at this moment do you suddenly say you don't know Mr. Mu Rong? After thinking for a short while, Elder Shi suddenly understood and said, Ah, that's right. Just now that young master claimed that his compound surname was Murong, but he didn't say that he was Murong Fu at all. There are countless people with the compound surname Murong in the world. What's so strange about that? Elder Chun said, but he himself wrote paying him back using his own methods on the wall. If he wasn't Murong Fu, then who was he? All of a sudden, there was a strange voice. That bratty young master could use all kinds of martial arts. Moreover, his skills were even better than those of the original owners. How come he wasn't Murong Fu? Of course it was him. It was definitely him. Everyone looked at the speaker and saw that he had eyes which looked like those of a rat, a short beard, and a sallow face. He was South Sea Divine Croc. After being poisoned, he had been tied up, but he could not help interrupting and putting in his opinion. Zhao Feng asked in surprise, So, Murong Fu came here? South Sea Divine Croc said furiously, You're talking your mother's stinking farts. Just now, you and Murong Fu came here hand in hand, then played some goddamn stealthy trick using anesthetic to make your father go numb. You quickly let me go, otherwise, He uttered several humph sounds in succession, but as for what would happen otherwise, he could not say it. After pondering, he merely uttered humph sounds. Qiao Feng said, I see that you're also an expert in Wulin. Why are you talking nonsense like this? When did I ever come here? Stuff like I and Murong Fu came here hand in hand is extremely ridiculous. South Sea Divine Croc gasped with anger and shouted, Qiao Feng! Fuck you, Qiao Feng! What a shame that despite being a chief of the Beggars Clan, you dare to tell this brazen lie. My big and little fellows, Qiao Feng came here just now, didn't he? Didn't our general invite him to sit at the top to drink tea? The Western Xia people all said, Yes, Murong Fu performed the wave-treading exquisite steps. Qiao Feng stood on a side and applauded. How could this be fake? Elder Wu pulled Qiao Feng's sleeve and said in a low voice, Chief, straightforward men don't do sneaky things. What happened just now can't be denied. Qiao Feng forced a smile and said, Fourth Brother Wu, don't tell me that just a moment ago you also saw me coming here? Elder Wu passed the small porcelain bottle containing the antidote to him and said, Chief, I return the bottle to you. Maybe it'll still be useful in the future. Qiao Feng said, Return to me? Why return it to me? You gave me this antidote just a moment ago. Have you forgotten? What? Fourth Brother Wu, you really saw me just now? Seeing him continuously denying, Elder Wu felt both unhappy and uneasy. Jake Shuri, another $10. Did you know it was a Viking who discovered America and not the Spanish? Is that right? I think I heard something like that. That's cool though. Yeah. But then didn't the American Indians discover America? Didn't the Native Americans discover America? Even though Qiao Feng was smart and capable, how could he guess that someone had disguised as himself and just a short while ago had come to Tianning Temple and rescued everybody? He thought that there was certainly an important conspiracy concealed in this matter. As straightforward people, both Elder Wu and Elder Song definitely could not do anything that was despicable. But the schemer who had been toying with him had dangerous plots. They could have set things up appropriately to make his own conduct and deeds appear to be absurd and wicked in all respects in everyone's eyes. Being saved by him, at first, everyone in the Beggars Clan had felt grateful for that. But now, hearing him absolutely deny doing so, they were greatly amazed. Some people thought that for the past several days, he had encountered a lot of unforeseen events, As a result, his mind was in confusion. Some thought that he had really made use of Mu Rongfu and killed Ma Dayuan. Now, fearing his evil scheme would be exposed, he bluntly, insistently denied that he knew that man with the Mu Rong surname. Some thought that he had been conspiring to be the chief of the beggars' clan again and was setting up some stratagem. There were even more people resolutely believing that he was exerting himself for Khitan by both opposing Western Xia and causing trouble to Great Song. Everyone had a different guess, therefore there were all kinds of expressions on the faces of the beggars, such as sorry, respectful, grieved, scornful, and hostile. Qiao Feng let out a deep sigh and said, everybody has escaped from dangers, so Qiao Feng will leave now. As he finished saying this, he cupped his fist in his hand, turned around, and got on the horse. Raising the whip, he galloped away. So to these people, he rode away twice. Suddenly, he heard Elder Shu shout, Qiao Feng, leave the dog-beating stick behind. Qiao Feng abruptly reined the horse and said, the dog-beating stick? In the apricot forest, didn't I already hand it over? Elder Shu said, we slipped up and was captured, so the dog-beating stick fell into the hands of the Western Xia bastards. Now we have ransacked everywhere, but still can't find it. Most probably, you've taken it. But they still suspect him? Qiao Feng turned his face skywards and let out a stream of laughs, which sounded sorrowful and disappointed, then said loudly, I, Qiao Feng, and the Beggars' Clan no longer have any connection with each other. What do I take the dog-beating stick for? Elder Shu, you've overly undervalued me. He gave the horse a nip with his legs. It immediately galloped towards the north with its 4 hooves, looking like it was flying. When Xiao Feng had been a child, he had been loved and raised by his parents. Later, he had been taught martial arts by a Shaolin monk, Suan Ku Dai Shi. Then he had acknowledged Chief Wang of the Beggars' Clan as his master. When going to Jianghu, even though he had experienced a lot of hardships and dangers, his masters and friends had invariably treated him with genuine sincerity. But for the past 2 days, a storm had suddenly taken place in the world. A chief who had all along been renowned, illustrious, sincere, benevolent, and righteous was unexpectedly regarded as a traitor to the country who harmed the people, and as a shameless, untrustworthy scoundrel. He let the horse go aimlessly as it pleased. His mind was extremely confused. If I'm really a Khitan, for the past 10 years, I've killed not just a few Khitan people, and ruined not just a few Khitan schemes. How can I not be a greatly disloyal man? If my parents were really killed by the Han people outside of Yanmen Pass, as I've regarded the murder of my parents as master, and for the past 30 years called the other people father and mother, how can I not be a greatly unfilial son? Unfilial son. Qiao Feng, oh Qiao Feng, you're this disloyal and unfilial. How do you dare to live in this world? If Sir Shan Huai isn't my father, then I'm certainly not Qiao Feng either. What is my surname? What's the first name that my natural father gave me? Not only am I a disloyal and unfilial, but I also don't have a first name and a surname. He also had another thought. However, maybe all of these are due to a very treacherous arch-villain framing me. I, Qiao Feng, am confidently a Da Jiang Fu, which means a man of resolve or success. But I've been manipulated by others to the point that my reputation has totally been lost and can't be redeemed. If I packed up and left my responsibilities at this point because of the temporary indignation, and from now on became indifferent to the Beggars' Clan, wouldn't that make the villain's scheme successful? All in all, I must investigate and make things clear. In his mind, he planned. The first step was returning to Mount Xiaoxi in Hunan, and asking Sir San Huai about my own life and origin. About his own life and origin. The second step would be entering Shaolin Monastery, visiting my first martial arts master, Suan Ku Dai Shi, and begging him to reveal the truth. These two people had always cherished me very much, so they definitely would not hold back anything. After planning like that, he did not feel worried anymore. In the past, as the chief of the Beggars clan, he had been able to consider the whole country his home when traveling in the Jianghu. Now, not only could he not go to the branches everywhere for accommodations, in order to avoid causing troubles wherever he went, he did not use the roads so that he would not meet former subordinates in the Beggars clan. After going for just 2 days, the money on his body had been used up. Therefore, he had to sell the horse that he had seized from the Western Xia people for traveling expenses. One day, he arrived at the foot of Mount Song, then went towards Mount Shaoxi. This was the place where he had been staying during his boyhood. Therefore, he was already familiar with the scenery everywhere. Because the Beggars clan was the biggest clan in Jianghu, and Shaolin School was the biggest school in Wulin, if the Beggars clan's chief came to Shaolin, this would bring about all kinds of formalities and extravagances, and disturb a great deal of people. Hence, ever since he had taken up the post of the Beggar clan's chief, he had never returned here. Every year, he had only sent people to respectfully give his parents and Anshi food and clothing, and to inquire after them. At this moment, when he was returning to his old land, thinking that his own origin was very enigmatic, and that in 2 or 4 hours it would be made clear, even though he was a calm and stable man, he could not refrain from getting anxious. He became broke after he left the Beggars clan. That's funny. His old home was located beside a mountain slope on the south side of Mount Shaoxi. Xiao Feng quickly went around the mountain slope. He only saw that there were a straw hat and a teacup put under the big jujube tree beside the vegetable garden. The handle of the teapot had already been broken. Xiao Feng knew that it belonged to his father, Chao San Huai. He suddenly felt a burst of warm thoughts in his heart. Dad is diligent and thrifty. His broken teapot has been used for several decades, but he's still unwilling to throw it away. Jake Sherry, again. Thank you so much. Caligula really made his horse a consul. Also, he did something I'm not allowed to talk about. Oh, he did a lot of things, Caligula did. A lot of very inappropriate things. So he's visiting his parents. As he looked at the big jujube tree, he also recalled that in his childhood, every time jujubes had been ripe, father always held his small hand that knocked jujubes from the tree together with him. The red, ripe jujubes had been so plump that their skin had been cracked. They had been both sweet and juicy. Ever since he had left his old land, he had never tasted such delicious jujubes again. Xiao Feng thought, even if they aren't my real parents, in this life, it's hard for me to repay this kindness of nurturing. No matter what my real origin is, I definitely won't change what I've addressed them as. He went to and stopped before the 3-room earthen house, only seeing a bamboo mat on which there were full of vegetables spread for sunning outside of it, and a mother hen which was leading a flock of chicks, pecking food in the grass. He could not help beaming. Tonight, Mom will surely kill chicken and prepare a meal to treat the son that she hasn't seen for a long time. He called out, Dad, Mom, this son has returned. He called out a few times, but did not hear any reply. He thought, that's right. The two oldsters' ears have been deaf and can't hear. He pushed the door open and strode into the house. Inside the main room, such things as wooden table, wooden bench, plow, harrow, and hoe did not look very different than they had been when he had left home. But he saw no one. Xiao Feng called several more times, "Dad! Mom!" But still he did not hear any reply. He felt a bit surprised and talked to himself. Where have they gone? When he stuck his head in the bedroom, he could not help jumping out of his skin because he saw Qiao Shanhuai and his wife lying motionlessly on the ground. Qiao Feng hurriedly jumped into the room. First, he helped his mother sit up, only to find that her breathing had already stopped. Oh no. But her body was still a little bit warm. Obviously, she had been dead for less than 2 hours. Next, when he carried his father, he noticed the same things. Being both panicky and grieved, Xiao Feng carried the corpse of his father and ran out of the house. After examining it carefully in the sunshine, he discovered that all the ribs in his chest had been broken. It was clear that he had been stricken death by the palm force of a martial arts expert. He looked at the corpse of his mother again and found that she had died in the same way. Xiao Feng was confused. My dad and mom are faithful, generous, honest peasants. Why would some martial arts expert use such a cruel means to murder them? Certainly it was because of me. Do we need bells for his parents? He examined carefully the 3 rooms inside the house, as well as the area in front of it, the area behind it, and the roof, to know what kind of man the murderer was. But the murderer did not leave behind even a single footprint. Xiao Feng's face was covered with tears. The more he thought, the sadder he became. He could not help bursting out, crying. When he had cried for just a short while, suddenly he heard someone say at his back, "What a pity! What a pity! We've come late by a step." Xiao Feng immediately turned around and saw 4 middle-aged monks dressed in clothes of the Shaolin monastery. Even though Xiao Feng had learned martial arts of the Shaolin school, Xuanku Daishi, the person who had taught him martial arts, had come to his house directly every night to teach him. Therefore, he did not know any of the monks of the Shaolin monastery. Now he was feeling miserable. Hence, even though he had seen the strangers, for the moment it was hard for him to hold back his tears. A rather tall monk with a completely furious look loudly said, "Xiao Feng, you're really lower than pigs and dogs. Even if Qiao Shanhuai and his wife aren't your real parents, the kindness of bringing you up for more than 10 years is no trivial matter. How could you have the heart to murder them?" Xiao Feng sobbed. "I returned home just a moment ago. Seeing that my parents have been murdered, I only want to find out who the killer is to avenge my parents. Daishi, how could you say this?" The monk said furiously, "The cruel heart of Khitan people is hard to change. You've really acted like an animal. You killed your foster parents with your own hands. What a pity we came to help too late. Surname Qiao. If you want to go to Mount Shaoxi to act wildly, you're still this far short of that." Oh no. I hate it. I hate it when in movies and shows and stories, when like when these things happen. You know what I mean? I hate when the hero is framed. It makes you anxious for the entire book. The bells must ring 13 times. I'm not ringing the bells 13 times. As he finished saying this, he threw a palm attack towards Xiao Feng's chest, creating a hu sound. When Xiaofeng was about to dodge, he heard the sound of wind gently moving at his back. He knew that someone was launching a sneak attack at the back. Unwilling to fight these Shaolin monks without clear reasons like this, he made a pressing with his left foot and gently leapt out for one zhang. As expected, a kick of another Shaolin monk missed him and hit the air. Seeing that he had dodged so easily like this, the four Shaolin monks all had astonished looks on their faces. That tall and big monk scolded. Your martial arts are good. So what? You think that having killed your foster parents, you can hide your origin? Too bad you're a descendant of the evil Khitan race. This has spread in Wulin for a long time. Who in Jianghu doesn't know about it? Committing this severe betrayal, you've only increased the amount of your sins. Another monk scolded. First you killed Ma Da Yuan. Next, you killed Qiao Xianghuai and his wife. Humph, humph, how can these scandals be hidden? Even though Xiaofeng heard the two monks revile him so, he was only grieved and did not have the slightest feeling of anger. All his life he had faced important matters, decided important doubtful cases, and met not just a few difficult affairs. Therefore, at this moment, he was very capable of repressing his anger. He cupped his fist in his hand in salute and said, May I ask, what are the religious names of the four dashis? Dashus? Are you eminent monks of the Shaolin monastery? A monk with a medium height, who had the most pleasant temperament, said, We are all Shaolin disciples. Alas, your foster father and mother were faithful and generous all their lives, but they ended up being repaid this miserably. Xiaofeng, you Khitan people have acted too savagely. Xiaofeng thought, They've already unwilling to reveal their religious names. It's no use asking them for more. That tall monk said they had come to help too late, so they must have come here to help after receiving a message. But who secretly let them know? Who predicted that my parents were going to encounter dangers? He then said, The four of you are charitable and descended from the mountain to save my parents. What a pity you were a tad late. That tall monk had a fiery temper. He raised the fist, which was as big as an alms bowl, and threw a punch at Xiaofeng, making a hoo sound. He shouted loudly, We let you commit this unfilial thing only because we were a tad late, yet you're still showing your complacency and saying mocking words? Xiaofeng knew obviously that the four of them had good intentions because they had immediately come to save his own parents after receiving the message. Hence, he was unwilling to fight them. But if he did not subdue them, he would not be able to make the truth become clear. He said, I appreciate the kindness of the four of you. Today, I have no choice but to offend you. As he finished saying this, he turned around like the wind and stretched his hand to attack the shoulder of the third monk. That monk shouted, You really want to fight? Yeah, obviously. When this sentence was still unfinished, his shoulder had already been hit by Xiaofeng. His body immediately became weak. He flopped down on the ground. Xiaofeng had learned the martial arts of the Shaolin school, therefore he was totally familiar with the martial arts stances of the four monks. He continuously used palm attacks to knock them down one by one and said, Sorry for offending. May I ask the four masters, you said that you had come to help too late. How did you know that my parents were going to suffer misfortune? Who informed you, your masters, of this information? Who informed you, four masters, of this situation? A tall monk said furiously, You only want to know about the informer to go murder him. How can Shaolin disciples yield to the oppressive interrogation of you lowly Khitan dog? Even if you use cruel torture, don't imagine that you'll be able to wring half a word out of my mouth. Xiaofeng thought, The misunderstanding has become deeper and deeper. No matter what I ask them, they'll all think that I'll be interrogating them. He stretched out his hand and gave each of them a few rubs on the back, releasing the blocked acupuncture points of the four monks, and said, If I want to kill witnesses at this moment, I would have taken the lives of the four of you. Who's right? Who's wrong? What is the truth? I'll always hope there will be a day when everything will come to light. Suddenly he heard a man sneer and say beside the mountain slope, Want to kill witnesses? that wouldn't have necessarily been so easy. Qiao Feng raised his head and saw more than 10 Shaolin monks standing next to the mountain slope. Holding weapons in their hands, the two leading monks both were about 50 years old. Each of them was holding a convenient shovel, whose one head was a crescent blade made of refined steel, which radiated a gloomy blue cold light. Those two monks had shining eyes which looked like shooting at each other. What does that mean? Those two monks had shining eyes which looked like shooting at other people. Okay. At first sight, it could be known that their internal energies were very profound. Even though Qiao Feng did not fear them, he knew the martial arts of the people who had just arrived were not bad, and if he had to fight them, unless he killed and wounded some people, it would be difficult to retreat unharmed. He cupped his fist in his hand and said, "Qiao Feng has to be rude. Da Shus, I beg for your forgiveness." Suddenly, his body flew backwards, his back hit and broke the door. He entered the earthen house. This incident happened extremely fast. All the monks exclaimed in unison. 5 or 6 people rushed forwards at the same time, but when they just reached the edge of the door, a stream of internal energy was shot out from the inside. These 5 or 6 people raised their left palms and hastily used their internal energies to resist. A loud pung sound was heard. Dust flew upwards. All of them were forced to take 4 or 5 steps back by the power of the palm attack sent out from the inside. After standing stably, they all felt their blood and internal energies tumbling up and down in their chests. They looked at each other blankly, and in their heart they totally understood. Though this palm attack of Qiao Feng's was ferocious, he still has spare power. If he sends out the second palm attack, I may not be able to ward it off. They all firmly believed that he was extremely ruthless and malicious, and hence they only thought that he was gathering up his power to strike again. But they could never have expected that he had actually showed mercy with that palm attack, and had not wanted to harm other people. The monks collected power and put on their guards. After a long while, the two leading monks lifted their convenient shovels and executed the 2 dragons entering the cave stance simultaneously. The movement of the shovels produced powerful winds. Along with the shovels, the 2 monks entered the earthen house side by side. Clang, clang, clang. The 2 shovels clashed, creating a glittering net to protect their bodies. But they saw that the inside of the house was empty. Where was Qiao Feng? Even stranger was that the corpses of Qiao Shanhuai and his wife had also disappeared without a trace. The 2 monks who used convenient shovels were the precept-maintaining monk and the rule-protecting monk of the Institute of Precepts of Shaolin Monastery, whose duty was supervising the conduct of the disciples of their school. They normally traveled in Jianghu to examine the achievements and mistakes of the disciples of the school. Therefore, their martial arts were no doubt very good, and they had vast knowledge which could be matched by even fewer people. Seeing that in an instant Qiao Feng had gone in a direction unbeknownst to them, the 2 already knew that it had been extremely hard. But who could have expected that he would be able to take along the corpses of Qiao Shanhuai and his wife? This was even more unimaginable. All the monks ransacked the areas in front of and behind the house. The head of the earthen bed and the kitchen one. The 2 monks from the Institute of Precepts then rapidly chased down the mountain. But after chasing for more than 20 lees, there was still no trace of Qiao Feng at all. No one could have expected Qiao Feng to clasp the corpses of his parents and rush up Mount Shaoxi. He fled to a steep slope which was dense with forest trees and hard for people to reach. After burying his parents, he knelt down and respectfully kowtowed 8 times, praying in his mind, "Dad, Mom, who carried out this murderous scheme and took your lives. I'll definitely capture the killer, take them to your graves and cut their heart out, alive as a sacrifice to you." Damn. He mad. He's super mad. He thought this time returning home he had been late by just a step, thus not being able to meet his parents again. Otherwise, seeing that he himself had already grown up to be this vigorous and imposing, they would have surely been very joyful. Had the three of them been able to meet for one day or half a day, then at least they would have had a short-lived happiness. Thinking to here, he could not help crying without being able to make any noise. Since childhood, he had been Since childhood, wait. Since childhood, he had been resilient and wept very little. But today he was extremely grieved and indignant. Therefore, he could not help prevent his tears from streaming down. All of a sudden, a thought appeared in his mind. Inwardly, he called, "Ayo, not good. Perhaps my first Anshi, Xuanku Dai Shi, is gonna meet with serious dangers too." He suddenly understood several matters. It really wasn't by coincidence that the murderer of my parents did the killing within 1 hour before I returned home like this. He already had premeditated plots. After the killing, he immediately told the monks of the Shaolin Monastery that I was going up Mount Shaoxi to kill my parents to eliminate witnesses. Those Shaolin monks cherished heroism and righteousness and wholeheartedly wanted to save my parents, but they have bumped into me. In this world, there's still one person who knows my origins. That is Master Xuanku. I must beware of that thug laying his murderous hands on him again and framing me for that. Thinking that Xuanku Daishu might be in danger because of himself, he could not help feeling extremely anxious and immediately dashed towards Shaolin Monastery. He knew clearly that the monastery was filled with experts, and each of the few elderly monks of the Damo Hall had significant skills. If he himself showed up, the monks would attack together right away, and it would not be easy to escape, and hence he only chose unfrequented trails to rush on. Caught on thorns and weeds, his trouser legs became ragged and his calves were dripping with blood, but he had to follow this way. Whoa, Jake! Jake! Slow down, man. Slow down. Thank you, though. What do you pose to do if the tall yokai woman, 8 feet tall, knocking on your front door? I would not answer the door. I would call the police. That's what I would do. And then go out the back, get into my car, and drive away. Using these trails to go up the mountain, the distance was increased by a half. Only after running quickly for 2 hours had he arrived at the back of the Shaolin Monastery. At that time, it was already dusk. He felt both happy and worried. So he's going to the Shaolin Monastery to meet his old master. Feeling happy because in the dark it would be easy to hide, and feeling worried because if the murderer took advantage of the dark to attack sneakily, it would be difficult to detect traces of him. When traveling in Jianghu for the past recent years, he had rarely met a match, but he had never met an enemy who undoubtedly had excellent martial arts. Elaborate plans and cruel calculations like this time. Even though the Shaolin Monastery was an extremely dangerous place, they did not guard against someone going to the monastery to attack Xuanku Daishi. Therefore, if someone launched a surprise attack, it would be hard to escape their sneaky scheme. How come Qiao Feng did not know that he himself was being under very serious suspicions? If at this moment Xuanku Daishi had been murdered, without anyone seeing the appearance of the killer, and he himself was seen sneakily entering the monastery, then even with 100 mouths he would not be able to explain it away. If at this moment he only cared about himself and disregarded other people, the farther he got away from Shaolin, the better it would be for him. But firstly, he thought about the safety of Master Xuanku Daishi, and secondly, he wanted to seize the opportunity to catch the real murderer and take revenge for the deaths of his parents. Hence, he did not pay any attention to the great risks and dangers. He had lived at Mount Shaoxi for more than 10 years, but he had never entered the Shaolin Monastery. Therefore, he did not know anything about the directions, halls, and institutes inside the monastery, and certainly he did not know where Xuanku Daishi lived. He thought, I only hope the master is totally safe. Upon seeing him, I'll report the course of events to him and beg Lao Runjia, which is a polite term to address old people, to take care. After that, I'll ask about my origin. Maybe Anshi would be able to guess who the real murderer is. There were far more than several tens of halls and compounds in Shaolin Monastery, which were located scattered on mountain slopes from the east to the west. Xuanku Daishi did not hold any position in the monastery, and there were at least more than 20 monks with the generation named Xuan, who wore similar clothes to each other. Where to find him in the dark? Xiao Feng secretly planned. The only way is catching a Shaolin monk, then forcing him to take me to see Xuanku Daishi. After that, I'll explain that I had no choice, and seriously apologize to him. But Shaolin monks generally respect their masters and treasure righteousness. If he thinks that I want to harm Xuanku Daishi, probably he'd rather die than submit, and definitely would be unwilling to reveal his whereabouts. I might as well find a cook and ask him to lead me. But these people may not know the place of my master. For the moment, he hesitated and had no plan. Every time he passed by a hall or wing room, he stooped down beside a window to listen, hoping that he would be able to have a clue. Even though he was tall and big in stature, his movements were quick, leaping up and drooping down like a lynx without being noticed by anyone. He kept going and listening like this. When he reached the side of a small house, suddenly he heard someone inside say, Abbot has important matters to discuss. Shishu, please go to the Institute of Faith Attestation immediately. Another aged voice said, Yes, I'm going right now. Xiao Feng thought, the abbots gathering people to discuss important matters. Maybe my master will go as well. I'd better follow these people to the Institute of Faith Attestation. A ya sound was heard. The door. Wait. What's a ya sound? Like, yeah. Like a door being pushed open? A ya sound was heard. The door was pushed open, and two monks came out. The aged one going westward, and the junior one hurriedly going eastwards. Perhaps he was going to notify other people. Xiao Feng thought because the abbot had invited this elderly monk to go discuss important matters, the rank or status of this person had to be high, and because the Shaolin monastery was different than other cloisters, it was certain that all the people with high ranks or status here also possessed profound martial arts. Not daring to follow closely behind the monk, Xiao Feng only looked at his back and followed him from a distance. He saw him go straight towards the west and walk into a westernmost house. Xiao Feng waited until the monk had entered the house. Only then did he go around to the back of it. After listening out and knowing clearly that there was no one around, he bent down beside a window. He felt both grieved and indignant, thinking to himself, Since I started to travel in Jianghu, when treating fellow Orthodox people in Wulin, has there ever been even a single matter in which I wasn't straightforward and didn't have superiority? Yet today I've been forced to be this sneaky. If by any chance I'm discovered, even though I've always had an illustrious name, where will I be able to hide my face then? But he immediately had another thought. In those years, Master went down from the mountain every night to teach me martial arts. Even if there were strong winds and heavy rain, he never skipped a night. I must repay such serious kindness, even if my body would be ground to dust, much less this tiny humiliation. He heard footsteps outside the house, then 4 people successively came in. Before long, 2 other people came in. Their shadows fell on the paper of the window. There were more than 10 people gathering in total. Qiao Feng thought, If they discuss important secret matters of Shaolin and are overheard by me, then even if it's unintentional, it'll still be improper. I'd better get away from this place. If Master is inside the house, there are lots of experts here like this. No matter how dangerous the murderer is, they'd not be able to harm him. After the monks finish discussing and disperse, I'll think of a way to meet the Master. When he was about to go away quietly, he heard more than 10 monks inside the house start to chant at the same time. Monks and their chanting. Chao Feng did not know what Buddhist sutra they were chanting, but he felt their voices were stately and solemn, and the chanting tones of some people also had an air of considerable sorrow and distress. This passage of sutra kept being chanted for a very long time. He gradually felt uneasy and thought, "It seems they're performing some kind of Buddhist memorial service. Oh no." Or meditating or studying sutras. Perhaps my master isn't here. He tilted his ear to listen carefully, and as expected, he did not hear the composed, thick voice of Xuan Ku Daishi in the chorus of the monks chanting sutra. Wow, he can pick out one voice from like 10 people. Damn, he's already dead? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. When he still could not decide whether or not he should wait for a while, the sound of chanting stopped, and a dignified voice was heard. Xuan Ku Shidu. That means younger apprentice brother. Would you still like to say something? Chao Feng was very happy. Master really is here. He's safe and sound too. Just now, he didn't chant the sutra together with other people. A person started to say in a deep, powerful voice. Hearing the voice, Chao Feng knew that he was none other than his first master, Xuan Ku Daishi, who said, Okay, old voice, right? The day Xiaodu was initiated into monkhood, Xiaodu is this little brother, my late master named me Xuan Ku. The 7 sufferings that the Buddha mentioned are birth, aging, illness, death, contact with the hated ones, separation from the loved ones, and frustrated desires. Xiaodu has made great efforts to escape from these 7 sufferings, but I could only assist myself and not other people. I feel ashamed of this. The suffering of contact with the hated ones is a state that the human life is bound to have. I deserve to get this retribution for the causes I sowed before. Xu Xiong, which is older apprentice brother, and Shudus, seeing me repay, so he's like, brothers, seeing me repay my former karma like this, you should feel happy for me. Chao Feng noticed that his voice was calm, but what he said was the language of Buddhism. Therefore, he himself did not understand what he meant. Jake Shuri! Jesus. Thank you so much. What vehicle do I drive? I drive a Prius. It's a very good car, okay? I love my Prius. I've had it for what? 11 years, I think? Yeah. And I haven't had to fix it once, so it's a really good car. That dignified voice continued. Xuanbei Shudu lost his life at the hands of a villain several months ago. Having been chasing down the murderer with all our power, we seem to have violated the precept of not being angry, but taming demon and punishing villains are deeds that help people everywhere. As martial arts learners, our great intentions are spreading Buddhist teachings and following the infinitely compassionate, merciful heart of the Buddha to free all living creatures from suffering. Chao Feng thought, the person with the dignified voice is most probably the abbot. Oh shit. Oh, okay, this was the abbot talking, not Xuan Ku Daishi. The person with the dignified voice is probably the abbot of the Shaolin monastery, Xuan Tzu. Daishu. He heard him continue. Eliminating a villain is equal to saving countless people. Brother, is that person Mu Rong of Gusu? Qiao Feng thought, this matter involves the Mu Rong clan of Gusu again. I've heard that the Xuanbei Daishu of Shaolin School was sneakily killed in Dali. Could it be that they're suspecting Mr. Mu Rong of committing the murder? He heard Xuanku Daishu say, Abbot Shishong, I am unwilling to make you and other brothers and... Wait. So Shishong is older brother, Shidu is younger brother. Abbot Shishong, I am unwilling to make you and the other brothers worry about me, because that would increase the retribution for my sins. If that person can put down the butcher knife, naturally it won't be too late for him to repent of his sins and find a way out. But if he persists in his wrongdoings, alas, he'll only make himself suffer for nothing. There's also no need to talk about how that person looks like. Wait, what's going on? Abbot Xuanzi Daishu said, That's right. Brother has a great understanding and wise opinions. Being an overly intolerant brother, my level has fallen behind to some extent. Xuanku said, Xiaodu, wait, brother, I want to meditate for a while, to ruminate and repent. All right, you take good care. A ya sound of the door opening was heard. A tall and skinny elderly monk slowly walked out first. After he had gone out for one zhang, there were 17 other monks in total continuously following behind him. All of the 18 monks were having their palms put together and their heads lowered in meditation, looking stately. After the monks had gone far away, the inside of the house was totally quiet. Intimidated by the situation around, for the moment, Qiao Feng did not dare to appear to knock the door. Suddenly, he heard Xuanku Daishu say, Good visitor, coming from afar, why are you hesitant about entering? Oh, he knows. Jake, what year and what model of vehicle do you drive? Wait, I said it, right? It's a Prius. 2011 Prius. Okay, so the master knows that someone is hiding outside. Qiao Feng was frightened and thought, I've been holding my breath. Even if other people were very close to me, they wouldn't necessarily be able to notice that I've been hiding here. To have such hearing, master's internal energy cultivation is really outstanding. Without delay, he respectfully walked to the door and said, How are you, master? Disciple Qiao Feng pays his respect to you. Xuanku softly uttered an ah sound and said, Feng I'm thinking about you and only hoping that I can meet you one time. Quickly, come in. His voice was filled with happiness. Ah. Qiao Feng was very happy. He hurriedly came in, then immediately knelt down and kowtowed and said, Master, normally I've rarely been at your service, making you miss me a lot. Seeing that you are healthy, this child is extremely happy. As he finished saying this, he raised his head and looked at Xuanku. Xuanku Daishu at first was having a smiling expression on his face. When he saw Qiao Feng's face in the light of the oil lamp, all of a sudden his expression changed greatly. He stood up and said in a trembling voice, You, so it was you. You're Qiao Feng. I developed such a good disciple with my own hands. But his facial expression was both horrified and painful, and was also mixed with deep pity and regret. Seeing that in the blink of an eye his master was already having a very strange expression, Qiao Feng was extremely astonished. He said, Master, I'm Qiao Feng. Xuanku Daishu said, Good. After uttering the 3 good words continuously, he did not say anything else. Xiaofeng did not dare to ask more and quietly waited to see if he had something to teach or instruct. He waited for a good while, but Xuanku Daishu remained silent all along. Xiaofeng looked at his master's face again, only seeing that his facial muscles were stiff and motionless, and his expression was exactly the same as it had been a moment ago. He could not refrain from jumping up in fright. When Xiaofeng reached out his hand to touch his master's palm, he felt that it was rather cold. He hastily checked his master's breathing, but it turned out to have already stopped for quite a while. This made Xiaofeng so frightened that he was dumbstruck. His mind was in chaos. As soon as master saw me, he was frightened to death like this? Definitely improbable. What's so frightful about me? Probably he was already injured. But he did not dare to inspect his master's body. And we're gonna stop. Oh, we're stopping. Cliffhanger, guys. Cliffhanger. But we need some bells for his master. Okay. Did you guys like that chapter? Yeah. What the hell is going on? What's going on? He was just talking like 5 minutes ago, and then he just stopped talking and died. Okay. And remember, the monks before they seemed very sad, right? As if they knew he was going to die anyways. So, like, what's going on? Your 92 Honda is a beast. You have a 92 Honda? Damn. It's still running? Jesus. All right, let me get a drink. Be right back.